Hello, everyone. My name is Raka Banerjee, and I'm with the HBA. So welcome to the Women in Healthcare Give Back in our panel discussion today. Through this discussion, through this group, we develop women leaders who want to give back and lift the world together. Our 2022 Give Back program is a partnership with the global nonprofit Women Deliver. Women Deliver hosts the world's biggest conference on gender equality and is seen as a global advisor and thought leader in this space, with a voice at the United Nations and with many organizations spanning the public and private sectors. Women Deliver leads a variety of programs to engage youth in making change in their countries, to elevate the Sustainable Development Goals, and to amplify the overall global movement for gender equality. The signature triennial conference in 2019 saw over 8,000 attendees across 169 countries, including decision makers from civil society, governments, and the private sector, and international agencies across advocates, activists, and journalists to really identify solutions to drive change. There were also 200,000 participants online and participating in satellite events across the globe. The images on the screen are from the global event. And as part of preparation for the next Women Deliver Global Conference in 2023, Women in Healthcare Give Back is proud to be able to support the amazing work of Women Deliver by building satellite events to amplify the movement for gender equality in and out of the 2022 program. As we think about innovation in healthcare, both today and tomorrow, it is all about optimally leveraging science and technology with deep subject expertise and the integration of art and science to find and curate, then communicate and share the insights we learn along the journey. Worldwide, we have a shortage of people interested in STEM and STEAM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. To stabilize our future talent pipelines, we need a variety of mechanisms to both create awareness and interest in the variety of roles and begin to provide technical and leadership skills needed to help hone our future STEM leaders, especially as those roles are evolving in healthcare. Our challenges are simultaneously local and global, and our ability to connect these future leaders globally could impact our ability to accelerate innovations. Successes will also be dependent on increasing STEAM leader diversity on multiple dimensions, such as classic demographics, including gender, race, ethnicity, age, religion, education, and geography, but will also need to include other diversity and team dynamic dimensions, such as those that are now a part of the integrated design thinking, trust and inspiration, business culture, and change management. The evolving STEAM leader skills and the increased need to fill these entrepreneur and intrapreneurial roles is why businesses, nonprofit organizations, and educators are now connecting to strategically move the needle in addressing our future talent pipeline and diversity gaps. So let's learn a little bit more about the 3 ahead of the curve nonprofit organizations that are already tackling these issues today. We have 3 of them with us. One of them is the New Jersey STEM Pathways Network, which is a New Jersey-based NPO leveraging a statewide network to ensure high-quality STEM learning for all learners. We also have HealthWorks Academies, which is a multi-state NPO transforming healthcare through education and talent development. And lastly, I Earn Kenya, which is an 140 global NPO designed to learn with the world, not just about it. So today we'll hear about the challenges they've faced, the results they've achieved, and the opportunities still in front of them, and maybe how we can all help them. So once again, my name is Raka Banerjee, and I would like to introduce the guests today for our panel. So first, I have the pleasure of, and we can probably skip over my background, today we have the pleasure of first having Kim Case. Kim is an executive director of the Research and Development Council of New Jersey. Kim spearheaded the development of the council's flagship STEM education initiative, the Governor's STEM Scholars Program, a public-private partnership with the state of New Jersey as well as curated New Jersey STEM Month in partnership with the Governor's Office and New Jersey State Legislature to highlight the state's STEM achievements. Kim leads the New Jersey STEM Pathways Network, a public-private strategic alliance striving for statewide excellence in STEM education and workforce development. So Kim, would you like to introduce yourself and share a bit more about the Research and Development Council of New Jersey?
Sure, Raka, thank you so much. Hi to everybody here, and thank you for the invitation today. I've served as the Executive Director of the Research and Development Council for 13 years now. My previous experience was in law and education. I actually served as a middle school social studies teacher in the South Bronx as part of Teach for America. To tell you more about the council, it's a nonprofit organization made up of industry, government, and academic members. So companies like Novartis and government agencies like the Department of Environmental Protection, as well as universities like Princeton. The mission of the council is to foster collaboration among leaders across the sectors to drive New Jersey's innovation economy. Our vision is growing STEM, advancing innovation, impacting the world. I'll be speaking to our STEM education and workforce development initiatives, specifically the New Jersey STEM Pathways Network, as we move along in the program.
So now moving on to our second panelist, Dale. Dale is the founder and CEO of HealthWorks Academies. HealthWorks Academies is a turnkey model for high school students offering experiential career awareness and engagement together with long-term mentoring. Dale, would you like to introduce yourself and the HealthWorks Academies?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Raka, and thank you for the opportunity to join the panel this morning. By background, I'm a former clinician, healthcare administrator, executive coach, a convoluted career, but it led me to develop HealthWorks Academies from a broad perspective. I became curious about workforce and healthcare when I realized that a third of the nation's physicians are over the age of 65, that 10,000 people a day are turning 65 with advances in healthcare, and that chronic disease is on the rise. Obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, stroke, all putting additional demand on the system. And we live in a supply and demand economy. And so where healthcare cost is spiraling, the question became, who's going to do the work? And so we looked at the pipeline of STEM students and realized that while we can promote STEM in school, students still didn't know how to apply it in developing a career. So that STEM plus M mentoring and connection with industry was critically important to developing the pipeline. So that's what we did. We developed a custom STEM curriculum that's embedded with problem-based learning and social emotional learning, professional development component for teachers, counselors, and administrators. Students have 4 years in the STEM curriculum and then 4 years of broad career experience in clinical medicine, biopharma, medical devices, healthcare technology, behavioral health, and much more. And then as they progress to junior and senior year, we pair them with an industry mentor, and that mentoring relationship continues through post-secondary education from high school to higher. Our program is designed to be implemented in public, private, charter, and faith-based schools in urban, suburban, and rural areas. And our mission is to develop a national pipeline of students who progress to professional health science careers, encourage diversity, and developing a talent workforce that reflect the populations we serve, and next generation leaders that include those competencies for high-performing teams and successful careers.
Wonderful, thank you, Dale. And so finally, our third panelist is David Muya. David is the country lead and a director of iEarn Kenya. iEarn is the International Education and Resource Network. Globally, iEarn is a nonprofit organization made up of over 30,000 schools and youth organizations in more than 140 countries. iEarn empowers teachers and young people to work together online using internet and the latest communication technologies. Over 2 million students each day are engaged in collaborative project work worldwide. In I, Kenya, programs empower young people with the 21st century skills that guarantee their success and competitiveness in the world today and tomorrow. And so for David, I believe he's not on the line with us today. However, he will be joining us remotely at the end of the presentation. So the first question is really, why do you think that education equity and gender equity in particular is critical to your program's goals and successes?
Sure. So in the United States, according to the NSF, there's a recent report that the STEM workforce is 89% white and 72% male. I could just stop there and just say, well, look at those numbers, right? And that really is, a cause for concern. And then on the flip side, right now in the United States, there are currently more children of color than there are white children, and nearly half of all the children are females. So we are missing out on a huge opportunity if we're limiting our audience to what the current workforce reflects. We also know, and research has shown, that a more diverse team is likely to outperform a more homogenous team, right? So when we have more perspectives, more backgrounds, obviously more diversity at the table, we will have greater outcomes, we will have greater innovation. At the end of the day, this is critical, and this is really a pillar of success for the New Jersey STEM pathways and the work that we have. New Jersey also is one of the most segregated states when it comes to education and educational outcomes. And this is obviously another cause for concern when you're looking at workforce development. We want all learners to be provided the same opportunities across the state, and that's really the goal of the STEM Pathways Network in New Jersey. The other thing I just want to mention in terms of gender equity and diversity is we launched a program called I Can STEM through the New Jersey STEM Pathways Network. And this is really something that we thought about when you think about the model of teaching, which is I do, we do, you do. Right. So you're really showing students, how to address a problem. You work with them to learn how to solve it together. And then you really put them in a place where they're able to do it on their own. And we really thought that I Can STEM could showcase the incredible diversity that we do have here in New Jersey, which is considered the medicine chest of the world. Right. It's such a place for innovation historically and presently with companies like Bell Labs, the place where the transistor was invented. It's the home of Edison Labs. And so we really have a lot of diversity to offer here in the state. One other quick fact about New Jersey, we have the most scientists and engineers per square mile in the world. And I'm going to say the universe, because I don't think anybody can challenge that concept either. So we really launched a campaign called I Can STEM, and we solicited nominations from across the state. They could be students, they could be professionals in STEM, and really wanted to showcase the talent in STEM for women, people of color, LGBTQ plus community members. And so if you go to our website, njstempathways.org, you can see all the credible faces that we've accumulated over the past year and a half. And it's still a program that's open and anyone can nominate for it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kim. And now going over to Dale, similar question. Why do you think that education equity and gender equity in particular is critical to your program's goals and successes?
Thank you, Raka. We've seen disparities in healthcare that were illuminated as a result of the pandemic. And these disparities were always there, but they were much more visible, and they persist. We believe that social determinants of health are inextricably linked to social determinants of education, and that we need to provide a high quality STEM curriculum, career shadowing, and mentoring available to students of all backgrounds to create an environment that we impact the trajectory and the velocity for students to reach their greatest potential. We can address these inequities by addressing the presence, the influence, and the proximity of students that reflect the populations we serve.
Thank you both. So we've talked a bit about the importance of education equity and gender equity. So my second question kind of goes a bit deeper into the goals that you've developed through your program. So maybe going back to Kim, what are some of the goals that you've been trying to achieve with your program? And what do you typically hear from businesses, particularly those associated with healthcare, about the impact that you're really driving in the community?
Sure. So, I mean, just overall goal is to develop cradle to career, high quality STEM learning and workforce development initiatives and experiences. And that's really done in a multitude of ways. So, New Jersey is a very locally based state where we have over 600 school districts in this state, and those districts all get to implement the statewide Department of Education standards, but they do it their own way. So the real path that we decided to follow in order to have some impact in this space was to develop STEM learning ecosystems. This is part of an international initiative that is run by the Teaching Institute for Excellence in STEM. And the STEM ecosystems are really partnerships in communities that come up with their own visions and missions in the STEM space. So right now in New Jersey, we have 6 STEM learning ecosystems. They start in the northern part of the state all the way to the southern part of the state. And while the goals really are similar, it's just the types of programs and the implementation that really varies. So for example, in our one of our South Jersey ecosystems, the Delran ecosystem, their focus really was on creating a digital fabrication laboratory. So it's a really incredible innovation space for students in their K-12 district to come and have some hands-on learning, to have some really high quality teaching, professional development for their district, and then also to bring community members in. So there could be members in the actual local community or even in the local community college that could take part in their activities. In our Bergen County ecosystem, their focus is on cybersecurity, and it makes a lot of sense because there are a lot of job opportunities in the northern part of the state around cybersecurity, but also connecting directly to New York State and New York City. So that has been the focus in that area. Another program that we've launched in the South Jersey ecosystem is the Mark Cuban AI Bootcamp. And so Mark Cuban Bootcamp was interested in working with our Atlantic City cohort. And so that was launched in the state. So I'm just trying to show that there's a lot of diverse programs that are going on, all really with the same mission for providing high quality STEM experiences for all learners. And we really do focus on all learners. The other goal is around New Jersey STEM Month, and Raka, you had mentioned that in the intro. That's something that started out many moons ago with me and probably about 5 college students going to the New Jersey State House to showcase posters of research that they had done. And last year we impacted 45,000 learners. So it really has grown exponentially since about 2015. And STEM Month can be celebrated in many different ways. We offer mini grants or micro grants across the state for programs. So you can host an event or you can do a program in your classroom and you can receive up to $500 to support it. You can tweet hashtag NJ STEM Month and highlight the work you're doing and promote that using Twitter. You can also acknowledge people through our awards. We have an awards program where we acknowledge like a corporate champion, an advocate of the year, a teacher of the year. So that's also another opportunity. But businesses really have been working with our ecosystems, trying to identify skills that they'd like to see in the program so that you're starting to really impact the pipeline for workforce. Businesses are also interested in sort of turnkey programs, and Dale may have experienced this as well, interested in turnkey programs where they can invest and show an ROI sooner than really doing their own programming, right? So that's really a way that we can offer them something that's really ready to go, something that we have already probably evaluated and shown impact, and that's where they can invest their dollars for that ROI. Businesses are also very interested in volunteer opportunities, and that's not something that they necessarily have the staff or the connections for, and we certainly offer those as well. In our Newark STEAM ecosystem, we actually had a program where, especially during COVID, where it wasn't so easy to transport to different schools, where we brought in speakers from the STEM community to speak to students, where you could be speaking to a classroom of 30, or you could be speaking to a school of 500. And you can also record those things and then send those out again and use those for years to come. So there's been a lot of opportunities for us to engage in business. The STEM Pathways Network started in 2014 and has come a really long way. And we are always open to more conversations about how to partner.
That's wonderful. And, Kim, when you mentioned some of the topics that your cohorts have been involved in, you mentioned, cybersecurity, AI. Out of curiosity, has there been kind of increasing interest and engagement from the different cohorts in kind of emerging technologies and that kind of space?
The kids are always out front of the adults. I mean, I think you can see that, right? They're ready to roll and they are very excited to do these things. So we've had an incredible turnout. The cybersecurity program that launched is not only for the community college, but there's an articulation agreement with the high school. So we really are trying to create a very specific pathway for that program. So the students are really ready and they're interested and they just really want the programs there to support them.
Wonderful. Okay. So now turning over to Dale, once again, the same question. If you could speak to what are some of the goals that you've been trying to achieve through your program, and then, what do you hear from businesses, particularly those related to healthcare, about the impact that you are driving in the community?
We know that there's fierce competition for talent in the industry. The companies are growing, technology is growing. We're moving from an institutional focus to a patient focus. The technology to support that is growing very rapidly. We have advances in cell and gene therapy and so much more that are just opening up whole new avenues for how we practice medicine. And so with all of these changes, we find that education is not keeping up and that industry is frustrated that the current system is not providing the college graduates with the competencies that they need. And so, and also industry leaders are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion goals, but they don't have the capability to go out and develop the workforce that they need. So HealthWorks Academies comes in as a bridge. We listen to industry, we understand where their industry is going, emerging trends, what do they want to see in their workforce, what are their strategic goals? And then we communicate those back to the schools, to the students, to let them know about emerging careers, opportunities that are in demand, training programs, and then make sure that they have the academic proficiency to be successful. Then we pair those industry partners with our mentoring program that includes our panel discussions, our one-on-ones, our mentoring groups, and that mentoring relationship continues from high school to higher. And so there's an opportunity for industry to get involved with our panels, to inform our academics and student preparation, volunteers, to help coordinate those panels and activities, and then that connection for students through industry that is really a pipeline with a pipe.
Absolutely. Would you mind speaking a bit more to the mentorship program? I think it's fascinating. I think it's wonderful to be able to, set these students up for success by kind of providing a long-term mentorship program for them. So I was curious to learn about the program structure, some of the experiences that the students have had through the program, things like that.
Sure. What we find is that when we go into a school and we talk about STEM, for a lot of kids, it's kind of a check the box. You get your chemistry, you get your biology, you get your algebra, you check the box, you're in the STEM program, great. But the real magic happens when they know there's an application for what they're learning. When they see those careers, they meet the professionals, they understand the industry and how it works. And then they see that chemistry and that biology and that algebra course as a stepping stone for doing what they see as their future. It's a very big paradigm shift. So students are become really engaged and own their academic journey. And for mentors, we know that there's a bilateral benefit. to working with students. And you know, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but what we see from our mentors is once they get involved in the program, they want to do more and they bring their friends.
That's wonderful to hear. And that's the kind of feedback that's, you know, kind of continues to kind of drive engagement from these students forward. And I love the real world application to what students are learning in school. I think sometimes in high school, even thinking back to my experience, it's sometimes very academically focused. And I think being able to actually see how businesses work and being able to meet with industry folks really makes a difference in the lives of students. So I think kind of going to our next question, kind of going back to Dale, how do you build innovation and leadership skills into your program?
I love this question. As a former healthcare administrator and an executive coach, you know, I could not include the leadership skills in our program. So it's critically important. We consider our students to be the innovators in their own future. So it's not for someone else to dictate what they should do or make recommendations for what they do. What we want to provide for them is information, opportunity for engagement, academic proficiency, broad career awareness over the 4 years that they're with us, grades 9 through 12, and industry mentors. And we provide a culture of inquiry and active learning in STEM. So they're exploring and discovering, and with the help of our industry partners and mentors, finding the right fit for the direction that they want to go in post-secondary education and career development. And we also understand that successful employees and high-performing teams need competent leadership competencies in communication, ownership of the whole, commitment to excellence, teamwork. We could spend a whole day talking about any one of those competencies, but we know that they're critically important. Some people have them as an innate ability, a lot of people don't, but we know that when those competencies are embedded, that the trajectory and velocity for their career development is exponential, and the effect on teams and performance is exponential. So while those competencies were reserved for, you know, executive coaching and leadership teams, they're all teachable skills. And so it was important to embed them in our high school program. It becomes an operating system, if you will, because students start to learn to operate in that way, and then they always do.
Absolutely. Going over to Kim, how do you build innovation and leadership skills into your program?
So in terms of innovation, there's one program that we run that I wanted to highlight. It's called the hashtag NJ STEM Together Communities Challenge. And it's something that we launched during COVID when we were really thinking about developing a project-based learning challenge for students. And we kind of struggled to kind of figure out one thing that we wanted to focus on. And then when COVID hit, we were hearing so much on the news from adults, and we were hearing pretty much nothing from kids. And we were thinking, there's a lot going on there. I mean, we're hearing from teachers that kids aren't logging on to their Zoom classes. We're hearing that kids, and still thousands, I'm sure, maybe hundreds, kids are still missing out of the school system where they didn't come back and re-engage. And so we thought with this communities challenge that we could give kids a voice in response to COVID. And so the first year we did it, it was, what is a problem your community is facing that is resulting from COVID, and what's the solution to it? And we had them use an engineering design process to really think about the solution. And then we added a little twist to it where we said, you have to pitch this to policymakers. So you needed to identify the problem, create a solution, and then speak to your local senator or assembly people and tell them what you were thinking. And so we wanted to really, when COVID happened and we realized how close policy is to science and STEM, and what there was such an impact in how policymakers understood science and STEM, that we felt like this was a really good marriage. And it turned out to be a great program for students. Students came up with, you know, as always, they have the best answers. They came up with some really great solutions to problems in their communities. they were really concerned about a lot of things. And this gave them an opportunity to talk about those things and to kind of take it outside of their everyday school programming. Although some teachers picked it up for their classes, and some teachers in a science class or STEM-based class used the format of the program, but also social studies. And we thought that that was really cool. And we actually ended up having several legislators involved. We got the American Association for the Advancement of Science to come and speak to our students about, you know, what their impact could be in policy, and really to start thinking about those things. So that project-based learning really is very innovative for students and really gives them, you know, a great template to be innovative.
That's great to hear. And I think that's a great kind of lead into our next question, which I think you kind of just touched upon, which is really, you know, what are some of the local community impacts that you're seeing due to some of your programs?
Sure. So we do use the Common Instrument Suite out of the Pear Institute, which is based in Massachusetts. And so that there's a couple of different tools there that we use to evaluate student interest, student engagement, and student identity in our programs. And as I mentioned, our Communities Challenge overwhelmingly has been very successful in increasing student identity when it comes to STEM. So we certainly, that's a very finite impact that we share out with people. But just in general, we're seeing greater coordination between K-12 and higher education, which is incredibly important. We're seeing another pillar really for our ecosystem is around family engagement. So we've seen a tremendous increase in family engagement. Our Delran ecosystem does family engagement workshops and events all throughout the year. And they have a very diverse population. And so they have a lot of translating going on during their events. And they have a big Turkish population. So that's always very that increase has been seen year after year for the last couple of years. We're seeing our policymakers understand more, I think, about STEM and really adopt our messaging when it comes to the importance in STEM and investing in STEM. So those are all really positive outputs, I think, that we're seeing.
Wonderful. And pivoting over to Dale, same question. What are some of the local community impacts, you know, at a high level that you're seeing due to your programs?
You know, I think everything is local. The most immediate effect that we see is student engagement. When they're part of this program, they really, you know, when they see something for themselves that they never saw before, they see themselves in a role that that is inspiring, and they get really excited. And then their engagement in school, their personal choices, their friends, their activities, everything changes because it's in line with the future that they see for themselves. I had an educator say to me, Dale, he said, I love your program. He said, because I teach ninth grade. And if you know the mind of a ninth grader, the future is Saturday. And, you know, and that really, you know, when, when you think about it, yeah, I mean, the future is, you know, right around the corner. So when you can bring that awareness and make that shift, and that has a ripple effect that affects everybody around them. So everybody in the program, you know, and then the engagement with industry, the engagement with mentors, the engagement with their teachers, and more of an inquiry about their future and their performance, because it's really important to them. They're not checking the box and getting by with a C. You know, that everything counts, and so that's really important. And then as I mentioned before, mentoring is not a one-way street. We see the impact with our mentors and our industry and the opportunities to get involved with students, and that provides a whole new rigor and engagement. And the other thing that happens, because we have students that represent every racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, and geographic diversity, that proximity brings diverse students together with diverse industry professionals. And that that collaboration is really eye-opening and really profound. And we don't typically in other models have the opportunity to do that. And so that, that's been a really interesting dynamic to witness. And then for our corporations, having an opportunity to demonstrate their corporate social responsibility, their impact in the community, and the public relations to show that, that they're committed community members, and this is an opportunity to do that. And so it highlights our students, it highlights our schools, it highlights the good that our corporate partners are doing.
That's wonderful. And so I think, as we think about the call to action, I think as we start to wrap up the discussion, I know of one question that we absolutely have is, can you describe how businesses, government agencies, or local communities could potentially partner with your organization and what benefits they could expect to derive? I know you've both kind of spoken to those that are at, a high level when walking through your programs, but just kind of any last remarks about the call to action and how various groups can get more involved with your association. So maybe we can start with Dale.
Sure. Well, we welcome collaboration because we can't do this in a vacuum. Our schools and the feedback from our teachers and our administrators is critically important. The feedback from local industry as well as our large corporations is critically important because they all have different needs, and we want to, as a pipeline program, we want to make sure that we're addressing those needs and informing schools and students on how best to meet those needs. So we're always looking for opportunities to introduce students to industry and expand our industry partnerships. Government agencies can serve in many ways to help scale our program, to reduce the barriers to entry in districts where they don't know us, or there are vendor agreements that are difficult to navigate. Our mission is just to get our program in schools and impact those pipelines and support those teachers. And so to amplify our access and our geographic regions as well, and also a benefit is our longitudinal tracking, because our program crosses multiple geographies and states. Our longitudinal data will be very meaningful when we start to amass, significant results. And so the impact of our program, certainly the impact of our education component and our professional development component would be really interesting to study over a broad geography in urban, suburban, and rural areas. And for our students and our schools, we're looking to develop culturally competent talent that serves the local community. Healthcare is personal. And we know that if we have a healthcare workforce that represents the communities that they serve, that outcomes and experience are vastly impacted by culturally competent workforce, especially in clinical medicine. And so our communities are really important partners in developing the workforce that serves them.
Absolutely. And over to Kim, same question. When you think about, the call to action, can you describe how various businesses, government agencies, or local communities can partner with your organization or just, get more involved?
So we have 6 STEM learning ecosystems across New Jersey, and they are always looking for partners, whether they're partners that are going to support programming with funding or volunteers or want to be part of the leadership team. They definitely are interested in that. We are launching 2 to 4 more ecosystems over the next 2 years. And so there's an opportunity to really build the ecosystem in certain communities across the state. So welcome to bring people in on that as well. And these ecosystems, as I mentioned, are really the boots on the ground, making the impact for learners, and are open to these partnerships across the sectors. In terms of benefits for working for our ecosystem, it's really around developing a pipeline with the skill set that your organization is looking for. And I think there's a real way to do that strategically and effectively. And then also for businesses to have a greater collective impact because they're combining resources to serve more learners at the end of the day. So we always, encourage anyone in the state who's interested in expanding or investing in some sort of STEM programming to contact us at the New Jersey STEM Pathways Network so we can connect them with the right partner.
Wonderful. Okay, so I think as we close out the panel, any final messages or remarks that you'd like to relay over to the audience? Maybe we can start with Kim and then go to Dale.
Sure. So, Raka, thank you so much for this time, and Dale, it's been a pleasure. But so final messages for me is really around the power of collaboration and partnership. It's critical to impact. Instead of starting something new, develop an understanding of the landscape of STEM in your community or state and work with partners who are already in the space to scale and expand. Don't be afraid of evaluation. This is a very important tool for improvement. And lastly, it's communicate your work and really tell your story.
Dale?
Thank you. I love this question too. We've seen other industries secure their next generation talent. If you take, for example, sports teams, they cultivate a farm team. They scout students as young as high school for professional sports. Mm-hmm. The Olympics cultivates talent as young as 7 or 8 years old, understanding that it takes on average 9 years to achieve mastery. And students can enter, athletes can enter the Olympics when they're 16. And health, the needs and the demand of the healthcare system are just too great not to have a pipeline that connects students to industry that is seamless, a highway as opposed to a pathway. We're a $4 trillion industry where virtually everyone is a consumer. We have the opportunity to cultivate an untapped resource by implementing process and practice that supports their students reaching their greatest potential. It isn't difficult, it isn't even expensive, but it is imperative.
Okay, so once again, a huge thank you to all of our panelists today, to Dale and also to Kim. We are so thrilled today to have David Muya and Iron Kenya to add to our discussion today. Our team has learned lessons in global empathy through this panel as we have been taping during Kenya's presidential election process. Kenya has recently experienced disruptions across the country, including school closures for most of this month. We send our warmest wishes to you, the students, and all of Kenya's citizens that soon life will return to normal over the next week or so. So thank you so much, David, for joining our panel today. And so maybe to jump into the first question, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and Iron Kenya?
My name is David Muya, and I run the programs of Iron Kenya here in collaboration with a very big team, several of them being women and girls whom we work with in the whole programs of IAN. IAN it's an abbreviation for International Education and Resource Network, and this is particularly a network that of teachers, basically of educators who are very passionate about using the very many common applicable resources that are available among teachers to be able to share together, be able to work together, to collaborate along the various classes. It's like connecting classrooms from one region to the other using the most available resources. And the program, I think it came in to start early, founded in 1988 under the leadership of the American Koppen Family Foundation, when 12 schools in the United States and 12 schools in the Soviet Union began their discussion through the internet. Until now, they have developed into this particular discussion, the whole thing has developed into a non-profit making online education institution. So through the internet, we have actually been able to provide opportunities for exchanges and cooperation between teachers and students from different countries and regions. Basically, our collaboration are based on projects, or what we're calling project-based learning, and even service-based learning model, where teachers and students learn from each other, and at the same time, they also promote understanding between teachers and students from these different participating countries. So far, we are currently in over 130 countries, basically serving over 2 million youth and 40,000 and plus educators. In the year 2021, I think we got an award from the Economic Forum, being recognized for having really participated in promoting Education 4.0, basically an education that is responding to the needs of the 21st century, or what we are calling the industry revolution of 4.0, basically looking at projects that really resonate with also the SDGs, the United Nations SDGs, as well as really making sure that our learners are able to develop their own personal competitiveness, as well as being able to discover new careers that are available due to the development or advancement of the industry in this particular situation. And I think maybe as we go along and answer questions, you'll see our major aim and goal is, apart from making a difference in the world and helping the health of the world, we are actually looking forward to see that we are not only learning from the world, but we are learning with the world. So whatever a student or a young person is learning in Nairobi, Kenya, we want the same kind of learning to be able to applicable to a learner in the United States. Look, imagine New York are now, they're talking about drones, virtual reality, they are learning coding and stuff like that. We also expect the student here in Nairobi to be able to learn such things, so that tomorrow when you talk about the whole world being a global village, then they are equally competent to the jobs, now that the jobs are basically remotely. Let me stop at that, just basically proudly saying 1988 founded. Now the year 2022, it is this big thing in 130 countries, impacting lives of both boys and girls and teachers at the same time. Thank you.
That's very impressive. Thank you so much for sharing that background. And I think, you know, the sharing of best practices and learnings between countries, as you mentioned, is so important, especially now that the globe is becoming much smaller. We live in a global village. So that's wonderful to hear. You know, in terms of our next question, we'd love to hear more about kind of some of the goals that you've been trying to achieve through your program. And how do you think that education equity and gender equity in particular kind of help enable your program's goals and successes?
Yeah, basically most of our programs have been geared towards three particular major goals. One, we want to have this successful transition of young people getting into technology-enabled careers of the Industry 4.0. We also would wish to have most of these young people secure a sustainable livelihood as they go and as they graduate into their learning. And that's why we expose them to mostly project-based learning concept, so that they are able to take this kind of practice all along as they go out to their life. They may try something like planting, or for example, one of the projects I want to give you, which is in our resources, is something we call like hydroponic in the classroom, for instance, or probably STEM in one of the STEM subjects. So you find even hydroponic in the classroom, students are able to create, probably to grow food. And some of these people, they end up going to get into agribusiness. And that is one thing that we're very, very happy about. We also want to improve that individual competitiveness, as I'd said before, transforming them into people who are willing to take collaborative actions in their communities to affect change in whichever level, change, be it in the gender equity, as we talked about. And we have actually designed so many programs around that really pushes and ignites and sustains creativity, design thinking, innovation, compassion, and curiosity among these young people, and especially the young women, and making sure that all this, as they are pushing towards our goal, most of these programs are also very interdisciplinary, challenge-based, research-backed, and programs that immerse young women and men into scenarios that really require them to identify, develop, and even able to solve real-world problems in pursuit of their learning as a means of self-fulfillment across different situations, and even beyond the classroom and beyond the program of IAN.
That's wonderful to hear. And I love the agriculture example that you provided. I'm curious to hear, any other examples of the project-based learning or the service-based learning experiences that you thought really resonated with students, or you thought, were some of your personal favorites just based on your experience.
Yes. One of the programs, I think, let me just highlight, we have done several STEM camp of excellence. This one was in collaboration with UNESCO. During the STEM camp, UNESCO STEM camps, both the young women and their female educators are taken through a range of coding and design thinking activities where they come up with different things. Basically, we want young women, especially, to be more encouraged and interested, ignited to really embrace science subjects, and science teachers as well are exposing these people to that aspect of solving problems and testing out ideas. We've also been able to do Girls' Voices for Change. This program was particularly is an initiative in partnership with GreaterGood.org, it's an American-based NGO. We were able to help girls pursuing their secondary school to connect their voices, their strengths, and their dreams for their education. The whole idea was they were to create videos, and in fact, we want them to communicate their vision through the power of digital media. So the girls in Kenya, particularly, they were able to create these videos about what they think about education. There are some of these role models in the community that are really doing so well. They could highlight some of those people solving problems of women. How are we encouraging the gender equity? How are we also really addressing the whole issue of the boy child, who has actually been left out completely because we are busy creating the girl child and we are leaving out the boy child. So at the end of the day, these people are not coming together. In one case, I remember a girl was saying, created a very nice media, was saying, who will marry me when I become a giant? As much as you want to empower me to be this big empowered girl, but also help my brother to understand how to appreciate an empowered woman so that they don't run away and get scared of this huge, big woman, so that I don't miss her husband. Okay, that was one of the media, the videos. You can see the way the girls are really coming up with these compelling digital media ideas, which are inspiring very positive change in girls' education. And specifically, we were targeting age 13 to 19, and over 300 girls who participated in the program. Most of them, we gave them the scholarship of $100 each for all those who participated. And those with those amazing production, we were actually giving them some awards. And many of these girls really changed. Most of them were from very needy families. And those who were actually from able families, they were able to donate their money to support girls from those who are needy or those having problems with probably the fee, or not able to get to education, given that most of the time a lot of so many communities have always neglected the girl child, not giving them opportunity to go to school. But we wanted to a situation where the girl child also say, why do they think they need to support one another to go to school? Whether is it really good to be there? So we gave them the time, and we say Girls' Voices for Change. That's one of the projects. And I think several projects, even simple projects like even My Culture, Your Culture, My Food, or outside our classroom, where students just take a photo of what is happening in their environment and share with students of another country on what is actually happening in their country. Even if it's my recipe, your recipe, you prepare a recipe, send it to another country to cook that food, while they also create a recipe, send it to another classroom to cook the food, and then we share and we see actually if you got it correct. This is a way of appreciating people's culture.
That's wonderful to hear, and I love the sharing of kind of recipes between different countries, and also the storytelling through the videos. I think that's really resonating with, I'm sure people across the world would really love to kind of see those videos, and being able to have them share their stories is really really impactful. So going on to our next question. So I think you kind of touched upon this, but how do you build upon innovation and leadership skills into your program? I know you mentioned the project-based learning, skills-based learning. So, how do you build innovation and leadership skills into those? I think you kind of touched upon it, but still, you can ask.
I think most of our programs are basically, as I've told you, they are basically designed to ignite and sustain innovation, design thinking, compassion, curiosity, and creativity generally. So you'll find all of them, they are really interdisciplinary, and their basically is to promote that kind of leadership, and especially among the young women, because we have always witnessed that the girl child has always, or the women really push it beyond even the borders expected. So yes, we've done all this. They are intertwined in all the programs. And probably then we, of course, I've told you, we have partnered with very many, some of very good institutions. Our latest program as IAN Kenya, we are now partnering with Meta on a program of digital literacy and media, digital media and news literacy. With the election and all this disinformation, misinformation around the world, the young people are the most affected, and the girl child particularly is the more exploited, given all this online space has become more dangerous. And remember, IAN promotes a very safe online space for these young people. So we are taking it upon ourselves also to run programs that are basically securing this innovation, so that they are not really misused or used to injure the young people. And that's why we are running the program on, we are calling it basically digital citizenship. It's commonly known like that. But this one was specifically narrowed towards news media and media literacy because of the propaganda that comes with the elections, electioneering years. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation going on in the news. So the young people had been taken through that. We've done up to around 50,000 young people who have been taken through the aspect of being able to identify, so that actually we protect this. And these young people, they're also leading the same programs in their community, so that they become leaders of the same. They're sending the word on how to really navigate the internet or the social media space responsibly, as well as teaching others not to be there. I think maybe that one would go into detail, but we've really taken them through all that. Even when we are running programs like Girls Voices for Change, we really look at the skills that they get out of it, because we want them to take photos, we want them to edit their stories, how to create their stories, how to edit those stories, how to present them, how to tell them to the world. And this one has great impact, not only to the communities they have, but also the donors who are really funding some of these programs. They love that. Finally, I think in terms of we are right now starting a program called Game of Learners. This is in collaboration with Microsoft, targeting about 200 schools, where again, this one will go towards helping them create the skills on technology-enabled careers. Yes, so we are doing that. Adobe is our partner. We're also partnering with Microsoft. We're also partnering with Meta and UNESCO. This wonderful organization, they are really good in supporting some of the initiatives. Yes.
That's wonderful to hear about those partnerships with industry. And I think that's actually a great segue into our next question, which is really, what are some of the local and community business impacts that you're seeing due to the program. So locally within your community and the impacts that you may be having on businesses or partners that you work with.
And locally, I guess we've really expanded very quickly, and many teachers have embraced most of the IAN models of teaching, especially that of problem-based learning. And due to that, we've recently affected the whole entire Ministry of Education, that we ended up adopting a competency-based curriculum, system of education, where learners from grade 1 all the way through to K-12 and probably beyond are now engaged more on project-based learning, even in their classroom, something which was never there. It was more about exams, but now we are seeing a lot of innovation, a lot of project-based learning, and we've been hired most of the time, even by government. We are supporting the government right now in working on their curriculum, especially in terms of developing projects out of the locally available, localized available material. So many schools, many teachers have adopted most of the teaching, and they are basically using most of our resources, which are online in the collaboration center, the IAN.org collaboration center.
That's amazing to hear, the impact that you're working, the partnerships that you're involved in. And so I guess, to kind of build on that question, thinking about our audience, how can another organization or individual partner with iEarn? And, are there any kind of final messages that you want to share with the audience today as they learn about iEarn and, they look to potentially get more involved with the program?
Yeah, thank you so much. We are very open to support and open to more collaboration and partnership, because most of the programs we are dealing with are youth-based, and these youth, most of them, they have very individual challenges, and particularly which cannot be addressed altogether at the same time, but we are actually moving forward to run as many programs as possible to capture them, especially as far as discovering the careers that are available. You see, now as we are talking, there's a lot of advancement, as the globalization and rapid advancement of technology continue to transform the civic space and the world of work. Youth skilling programs and education have grown increasingly disconnected from the realities and the needs of the global economies. This is where we are actually looking for partners to help us, basically. Any partner who is interested in youth skilling programs, we are very much about, we have so many youth.
So once again, a huge thank you to all of our panelists today, to Dale and also to Kim and to David as well, who will be, and so just one last note to the audience to please amplify your impact by posting on social media. We'd love to have you get more involved with a lot of these programs that we're featuring. And thank you again for your time today. Thank you.